Hi, friends. It's June the 20th, 2024. And the topic today is how to get on disability with COVID, specifically with long COVID. Uh, Long COVID is COVID symptoms that have lasted over 4 months and up to a lifetime. Now, I've had COVID for 3 times, and I can't remember what it feels like to feel normal. I was just talking to a friend. I said, "Do you remember what I was like in 2020? 4 years ago. I've had it 3 times. It wasn't until the last time that I got long COVID." I did several videos, maybe 3 or 4, on COVID, and last night discussed how difficult it was to get a diagnosis to get on disability if you had long COVID. Well, tonight we're going to do the opposite. I'm going to tell you, if you have long COVID, some approaches you can take to get on Social Security disability. Now, why am I able to do this? Why do I think I can give you advice? It's because I've worked in the field of mental health in Kentucky and Indiana all my life. And I have helped many, many, many people get on disability. I can give you some hints. I will say this: every person I helped get on disability got on disability except one person, and he died 1 week. He died 1 week before he was granted disability. He was a friend of mine. Well, the basic rule here for getting disability is that you can't. I've written down some notes, so you'll see me look to the right, so I don't miss too much. You can't work for mental or physical conditions. Now, this is very important. This is something you won't hear from people. Sometimes mental symptoms will help you get on disability much faster than physical symptoms. Now, the people I've worked with, I've combined the two. I've gotten all the records that are mental from doctors or therapists or psychiatrists. I've also gotten all the records talking about notes, progress notes, and all for physical. So mental and physical, I would combine them in reports to get people on disability. You just don't go with one or the other. I can guarantee right now, if you have long-term disability, you've got physical problems, you've got mental problems, you've got mental fog, you may have forgetfulness. I named them all in my report last night, so tune into the to my YouTube for last night, and I tell what all the symptoms I have had and what you can expect to have, not expect, but you could have if you have long-term disability, long-term COVID. So what you want to do, first of all, is realize that without any hard records from a doctor, a specialist, from counselors, rehab counselors, without hard evidence in paper, notes, and what I do, I'll write reports that include all the notes. Without hard evidence, you need to start right there. You need to get doctors involved with each of your symptoms, or not a different doctor for every symptom, but for the symptoms you have doctors and, if possible, specialists trying to help you overcome those physical problems, medical problems. Now, since so much of this is mental, brain fog, forgetting, being in the middle of a sentence and not knowing where you're going, not being able to stay on task and focus. Since all this is mental, by all means, see a therapist, and if possible, ask if you can get a therapist that has worked with people with COVID, and specifically long-term COVID. Same with a doctor. Ask if you can get a physician that has worked with people that's had physical problems. For myself, for example, tiredness, breathing issues, not being able to breathe. Right now, this is brand new. Can't coordination of walking, wobbling around while trying to walk, having to hold on to rails so I don't fall down the stairs. So the more I want to say help you can get, medical help, rehab help that you can get, the better. I was sent to rehab, and I was working with people I became somewhat friends with, and so far one's died. Most of them dropped out. And I was able to do all the exercises for half an hour. It was half an hour. And at the end of the half an hour, I was exhausted. Now, here's the other thing. This is quite common with long-term COVID. When you get done with your rehab or exercise, you may feel better for a while and then plummet. Just part of the deal. Now, I don't know too much about arthritis. That was listed as one of the reasons people can get on disability. I don't know if that's caused by COVID or not, but it's if you can't use your hands and all, of course you can't work a physical job. But let's skip over that and talk about. I'm going to talk about first of all things that's hard to approve. However, let me say that with all these that are hard to prove or impossible to improve according to Google, I've helped each person get on disability with Social Security, with each of them. Even though it says it's almost impossible to get on it with these conditions. Number one, depression. It's got to be major depression, and it needs to be ongoing, and you need to have a history of seeing either a psychiatrist, a therapist, or both, taking medication. If you haven't started doing this and you're severely depressed, it's not a bad time to start this week. Another one's anxiety. Usually depression and anxiety, I have learned for myself, go together. And what I mean by that is that anxiety makes me depressed and depression makes me anxious. And I've tried so many medications. None of them have worked except for Klonopin and Xanax. And that was because my major problem was anxiety rather than depression. But because doctors are so fearful of giving anxiety medication, such as Klonopin, such as Ativan, such as Valium, such as Xanax. They're so afraid to give that because of people selling it on the street and it being addictive, that they try to put you on antidepressants, which for me, 100% of antidepressants have done nothing but made me worse. And actually, not only made me feel worse, but there's a word called dissociation. You're sitting down and it's like you're watching yourself do things. It's a weird. It's a sensation, okay? It's not you're going crazy. It's a sensation that as that medication's working in your mind, you're sitting here and it's like, what are you doing? And then you realize it's the medication causing it, and you go right off of it and call the doctor and say, I've got to go off of it. I took a whole sack of medication to my doctor that he had prescribed. They were antidepressants. I said, look, you try these. See how you feel. Tried one more recently. It's supposed to help me lose weight. I took it with one other medication that was combined together. It's going to help me lose 10 or 15 pounds. I can't tell you. Well, I'll go ahead and tell you. The first night I didn't sleep. The second night I had diarrhea that I had to clean up the whole bathroom. Took the whole day because it came on like a flash and I couldn't get to the restroom in time. And then the third day, it was a whole day of constipation. 3 drugs he gave me so I could lose weight. That was the end of that ordeal of I'll lose weight my own way or I'll just stay a few pounds chubby, okay? Now, along with these ways of qualifying for disability or not qualifying for disability, I'm looking at a note that every one of these things that they say you don't qualify for, I've helped people qualify for Social Security disability, including depression, mixed with anxiety. They should go together. Schizophrenia, by all means, schizophrenia should be at the top of the list. Bipolar, that means swings up and down in your mood, or it could just mean down, or it could mean just up all the time. Either one could make you psychotic, which means if you're up all the time, you're not sleeping, and you're liable to do anything with anybody or go anywhere that you don't even remember later. Listen, I'm a psychologist in Kentucky, or was until I moved here, and I let it expire. I know people that not only had bipolar, the upward swing, they went to California, went to a bar, and to keep drinking, they were buying everybody drinks. To keep drinking, they didn't fly there, they drove there. To keep drinking, they signed their car title over to the bartender. He got the car. Then he had to call relatives for plane tickets to come back. I remember talking to him, just like I'm talking to you right now. I wasn't dealing with disability for him at all, so I'm not addressing that. I'm just telling you how severe it can be. And on the downward end of a bipolar, it can be so severe the person's suicidal and will attempt suicide, and has, people I know, attempted suicide. 2 with a gun, and they made it. It went into their head, but it did not kill them. They ended up going to a mental health facility. That was a community mental health facility where they had to have services all the time. Okay, so I mentioned that to let you know that just because someone tells you you don't qualify for disability, if you have hard records, I'm talking about the longer the better. If you get those records, I'm going to tell you a secret. If you've been going to a therapist, rehab therapist, psychiatrist, or a medical doctor or specialist, legally, according to the HIPAA law, if you ask for copies of those records, and you must do this if you want this to work, what I'm telling you. If you want this to work, you must sign a release and ask for your records, because they may not send them to the disability office when the disability office sends them a letter saying, this client says they saw you, would you send your progress notes? Let me tell you something. It's easier to do nothing than something. Did you catch that? In all areas of your life, it's easier to do nothing than to do something. So, you as a patient can go in and ask for copies of your progress notes, session notes, if you want to call them session notes. Sign a consent form. Now, this is completely legal to the point if they don't do it, it's illegal. And with 35 years experience in the field, and I'll tell you my qualifications: Kentucky psychologist, Kentucky alcohol and drug therapist, Indiana licensed marriage and therapist, licensed marriage and family therapist, licensed clinical social worker, licensed clinical substance abuse counselor, and licensed school psychologist. Oh my gosh. Don't get me talking about school psychology and all the parents that want their kids on disability so they can get benefits. Don't get me into that one. I stayed out of it. I stayed out of the school psychology problems. Okay. Now, we talk about schizophrenia. That should be a number one for obvious reasons. You can hear voices. You can hear voices. Now this was in a list of what doesn't qualify. Well, yes, it does, because I've qualified people this way. It was the easiest one, actually, because if you're hearing voices, and if you're hearing people talking to you, telling you to hurt yourself, no one's going to hire you, are they? Okay, now, final. This last guy I helped get on disability. Post-traumatic stress disorder. Now, post-traumatic stress disorder, and the letters for that is PTSD. People in a war. Their friend on the left, their friend on the right get blown up in a war. They're left wondering why they didn't get killed too. They don't get over it. That's just one example. That's one example. How about having to go and kill everybody? They're told to go out and kill everybody that's the enemy. I helped this guy get on. He went with Morgan and Morgan. Morgan and Morgan's a disability, national disability. You may want to write that down. Disability attorney with offices in all states. What they do is they hire out, contract with other attorneys. And this guy appeared normal when I first got to know him. He worked in the justice system, and then his life started falling apart. We exercised together. We went to Fit for a King. That's a religious based weightlifting and gym. It was owned by a preacher. That's why I say it's religious oriented. So we did this. We walked together. And then around age 55, right down the tube. He wouldn't answer his phone. He stayed in his home and cried all the time. I don't know. I'm not going to mention names, of course, but he had 2 tours in Vietnam, and he was a trained killer, teaching them how to kill people in Vietnam. That's all he'd say about it. He wouldn't let me write anything down. I was his counselor and friend. No, take that away. I'm not supposed. That's a dual relationship. I was his counselor, but we felt like friends. He was turned down 2 times by other people, doctors working with him. I'm not a doctor. I've got a master's in clinical psychology, so I'm in the mental health field, not the medical field. And Morgan contacted me with his permission, and they said, would you send us some information that would that you know about him? Well, I knew what doctors he went to, knew what psychiatrists he went to. I had my own observations. Now, he's already been turned down 2 times. All he would do is stay in this home and just cry all night. Totally different, all day and night. Completely different than we started off as friends. So you could say a switch from friends terminated the friendship, quote, became his therapist, quote, and wrote the report. I got all the information from other doctors. He was VA. Of course he was. He was in 2 tours in Vietnam. Got all their notes. He's breaking down. Wouldn't eat anymore. Not much. Couldn't sleep. I don't know what he could do, now that I think about it, because when I saw him, all he could do is just break down crying. I don't know what he had to teach people to do in Vietnam. I do not know what he did in Vietnam. But he did tell me this: I can't tell you anything that is what would be called the incident that would cause post-traumatic stress. I cannot give you that information because I don't know what they would do to me if it was printed on paper. It was that tragic what he did. It's so tragic. He was afraid they'd put him in prison the rest of his life. He would not tell me the qualifying post-traumatic stress event. Never. Don't know what it. I can only guess by reading books and movies and what people did there. Well, I did the best I could without knowing what he did. And I talked to him later. He had gotten on it with all the back pay due to my report, where I combined his VA records with their permission. That's VA Army records. His local medical records. And he came to me, he said, I was turned down a third time for disability for post-traumatic stress disorder. And then, within a month, I get a letter saying I have full disability based upon the letter that I sent. One letter called a report that I sent that included everything that everyone else had done got approved, and it's still approved. Got a sad story about this. We had a tornado in here near Madison, Indiana, and this was close to he had a farm and that he had inherited and everything, and his whole home and farm was ruined. This was a month ago. I haven't talked to him since then, but just wanted to toss that out. I think that's all that I can share that will help you right now. I will say that it usually takes 3 times to be rejected. Two times to be rejected. You get accepted the 3rd time. If you get rejected the first time, don't use an attorney, but if you get rejected, that's when you might want to ask around who's the best attorney around town. Or I can't speak highly enough about Morgan and Morgan that I hear on TV, since the last person was with Morgan and Morgan. I've been told this. I'm going to tell you some funny things. I helped this person that really needed to get on disability. He got on disability. It had been turned down 3 times, and he got on it because I incorporated all the information from all the other doctors into why he should be on disability. He gets on disability, and about 6 months later, his wife calls. Now she's in the field I'm in. Her only problem was that she had snorted too much alcohol, had too many DUIs. She calls me up and she says, "You helped my husband get on disability. It's my time to get on disability. Can you meet with me and help me get on disability?" I said, "Well, have them send me the request for records." And when I got the request for records, I don't want you to think I'm easy. I said, "This person is younger than me. She has as much experience as I do. By that I meant she actually went to people's homes and did therapy. So she had additional experience that I didn't do. Her problem was she couldn't drive anymore." Well, I wrote a letter back, and it wasn't a report. As such, it was all the good qualities this person had, and I saw no reason she couldn't work and work full time. Never heard from her again. Hope I've helped you. These aren't the only, let me just take a quick look. These aren't the only things that will qualify you, but realize they're also looking for cognitive decline. That means you're forgetting, can't remember, you can't focus, you can't concentrate. That's very important to tell. You will be seen by a psychologist that will do a mental status exam. I don't know how to say this except think of your worst days, not your best days. Every person that's given reports of things they can do around house physically, cook, clean the house, even if they said, I can do it a little bit, maybe for 15 minutes or half an hour, didn't get it. If their memory was too good and they could remember counting from 100 to 1 and dropping every 7 digits or every 3 digits and giving the next number. For example, let's start with 100. Take away 7. What do you got? No, I'm having a problem. If you take 7 away from, you have 93, don't you? And you do that until taking away 7 till you get to 0. That's part of mental status exam that would really mess me up because I'm not good with numbers. Then they'd say, okay, let's go another route. Let's start with 100 and just deduct 3 at a time. So 100, let's go deduct 3, that would be can't even remember. So some of it is actual, you're not able to do it, but that counts that you're in cognitive decline, lack of ability to do things mentally, process things. It's just one example. That's not a hint to help you. That would be that would be a fall down on my own if they asked me to do that. But that's the type of questions. So you're going to be seen by a psychologist for a mental status exam that probably won't last an hour. They'll look out the window to see if you're walking in with a cane or with help, someone holding your arm, seeing if you're physically impaired. They'll be looking out the window. They'll be positioned to do that. Could be, not always. And then I remember this one case. I was going to meet a person there to be for a testimony, that the person needed disability. And I walked in there and I looked on the right. I went in there an hour early and I looked on the right. And I saw someone seemed a little bit strange to be in a library because he wasn't looking at books or anything. He was looking at people walking in. And I was in a hearing. He had been turned down 3 times. So I having written a report, also volunteered to be in the hearing. And I don't know that he's a judge. He's going to be the disability judge. And when my client comes in an hour later, he's still wobbling around on the cane. And he came in early. He had no idea the judge was there. So it wasn't an hour later. It was probably half an hour before the appointment. He comes in with the help of his daughter, holding one arm, and he's with a cane. And then we're told to go up to the second floor of the library where the hearing's going to be. And he said, Judge said, why you got a cane? Well, he talks about not being able to walk straight for a couple years. And Judge said, I watched you come in. Why, your daughter? What? Is that your daughter? Yeah. Why was she needing to help you? Because my legs are in so much pain that I could fall if I don't have a cane or have someone hold my arm up. He said, I see. And he asked some questions. Here's the questions he asked. How long has it been since you've worked? I can't think of them all really, but he said, how much education do you have? It wasn't that much. It was probably less than a high school education. What was the last job you had, and what did you do? How long's it been since you worked? How many jobs have you tried since you were fired? And I'll never forget what he said. He said, I can't tell you if you will be on disability or not, but I will tell you this. You're too old to go back to school to learn a new trade. And I don't think you can do what you used to do before you got fired. Well, within 2 weeks, he got a letter with back pay. A letter saying that he had gotten on disability and gotten back pay. Okay, you think it's time to quit now? How long have we been talking here? 45 minutes. Everything I've said is true. All the all the credentials I said I had are true. And I know I don't act. I don't act like a professional, and I don't aim to. Only when I act like myself. So, send me messages if you want to. I was able to answer 2 from yesterday. If I get 2 more today, I'll answer them tomorrow. Now, I thought I only had 38 subscribers, but my goodness, I looked today, I had 48 subscribers. If you want to subscribe, this is the way I roll. If you like my style, may I invite you to subscribe? And if you like, don't just subscribe with the first button. Hit the third button that says, let me know of all of the videos that he puts on. I do that with people that if I like a person, I always hit the top one. Well, this is the longest one I've done, and possibly the most important one I've ever done. And it'd be interesting to see. I've got to come up with a title now. I've got to come up with a title. I've got to come up with a description. And a title and description, believe it or not, makes all the difference in the world. God bless you, and see you later.